Hey guys, Morphologis here, and I'm here tonight on Inforunners with Execute Algared. I've been invited onto the show to discuss a really interesting topic. Tonight we're talking about Star Citizen's AI and whether or not it can achieve lifelikeness. It's not really a word, but yeah, you get the point.
So yeah, we've invited Morph on, and before we get started, remember, like this video, subscribe, all that type of jazz. And Morph, where can people find you, man, and your channel?
You can find me on YouTube at Morphologis, the same for Twitch, as well as all the other social media platforms.
And you stream 3 days a week, correct?
I do. I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 9 a.m. Atlantic time.
Cool. All right, so we've got the topics there off to the left, and we're just going to go through them one by one. And the first one off the rank is our experience with AI and Star Citizen. So, how is AI right now for you guys in SC? Alred, I'll kick it off with you, man. So, what's your experience like?
It's well, I think the AI is pretty bad in sense that you go through any station and 9 times out of 10 they're standing on chairs. Now, I do know that we did send Morphologis into Star Citizen a bit earlier, and he went running through the station and was unable to find AI standing on any chairs anywhere. So,
yeah,
who knows?
Obviously, obviously a fresh server.
That's obviously a fresh server.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Star Citizen knew we were doing this, so they, CIG knew they pinged us and.
So I think across the board, it's not just the AI and chairs, which is a really obvious one, but also the FPS mechanics. Any of the FPS missions are pretty bland at the moment. You've got the AI mechanics are pretty abysmal, and even just general walking around, and they're walking into walls and standing inside each other and all that. Is that you stream obviously quite regularly compared to us, Morph? What's your experience like with AI?
Well, I think as you said, the AI is highly dependent on the server's health, so it varies quite wildly. If the server's been on for a while, you can usually tell because the AI will be standing on chairs. If it gets really bad, all of them stand on chairs. But when a server restarts and the latency is good, so maybe on off times, AI actually performs very well. So you'll see like the bartender being very responsive. If you play against FPS AI rather quickly when you get on a server, when the server's fresh, they'll actually be pretty good. They'll fight back. They'll use cover. They'll try to flank. They'll rush you. They'll hit accurately. But yeah, if you wait a little bit, that AI just goes straight down the toilet, sadly, and that happens quite frequently and quite quickly, unfortunately, right now.
So I assume like almost everything in Star Citizen at the moment, we're kind of waiting for, say, something like server meshing to come online and connect all those pieces together. That's what I'm hearing from what you've just said.
Right. So as I understand it, I think that the primary issue right now, from the way the developers have explained, is that because the server runs off Pcache, or like the server memory in the server box, once the server is on for a while, that memory fills up. And whether it be through bugs like memory leaks, or it's just more people doing more stuff and leaving more trash around, that memory, once it gets full, starts to really to lag, dropping the server tick rate. And that's how AI functions. It needs to constantly be updated for it to work. And if the server RAM is full, if it's really chugging, then the AI is not going to work.
We almost need AI garbo guys going around picking up a loot and just chucking it in a garbage bag and just.
So another part of AI would be AI that we've seen in other games. So looking at this and the reason we're looking at this is because obviously comparing AI and what we have now, I don't believe, and you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't believe that the AI that we have in games is going to live up to what they've described the AI needs to be for Star Citizen. And so when I look at we talk through this, I just realized I need to circle. Hang on. Examples of AI in games now. Right, cool. Yeah, so when we looked at this, we went through several examples. And so the most basic level is, say, something like Doom, where they just send waves of AI at you and they basically shoot and you kill them and they die and they respawn. And I would say most first-person shooters, and no matter how many different versions of enemies you have, they are all pretty much 90% the same thing, just tweaked. Would you guys kind of agree with that synopsis
Yeah,
at the moment?
it's certainly
Mm,
one of the things you see. Go on.
I think that
Paul.
there's been your typical AI you get in FPS combat games. That's very basic,
That's what
and
I meant. Yeah.
different levels of difficulty with them, with the accuracy and how frequently they'll actually hit you. But I have seen some impressive games with pretty good AI that provides a challenge to the player. Are we going now into those examples?
We are going into those,
Yep.
so we
Okay,
can talk about that. So go ahead. Go ahead. You wanted to talk about Tarkov, yeah?
Yeah, so one of the ones that comes to mind more recently, because I've played it most recently, would be the Tarkov AI. I think the AI in that game is pretty impressive with the difficulty and the believability in the way that they move. It's got in the way they've achieved this is really interesting. They've apparently logged actual player movement and behavior, and use that to inform the way the AI actually behaves. And so when you go into a game as either a scavenger, which is you basically blend in with the AI. Actually, this is a really interesting subject. I do want to explore this a little bit because
Yeah,
it
go
will
for
tie into the later bit. They're just to explain the way it works so that you can understand my explanation. In Tarkov, you go in as a PMC, private military contractor, which is just your character. It's like an MMO. You've got like your outfit and stuff. And then you've got AI that's in the game that will fight back, which are the scavengers. You don't get to keep anything from the scavengers, but you can play as them to provide like an additional challenge to players. And so you can occasionally go in as a scav, and in order to make it harder for the players, the creators of the game wanted to make the scavengers behave more like players. And they've gotten to the point where they've started to copy really interesting animations that players will do as scavengers, or even basically as scavengers, to fool people into thinking that they're actual players.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the friendly lean like back and forth that you see players doing.
Yeah.
In a recent patch for the AI, they made it so that if a scav walks up to another scav that's AI, they'll do the friendly lean so that you might think that it's a real player playing as a scav that wants to team up with you. And they might use animations like come with me. And it's really interesting that they've integrated that. So for me, that's like the most believable AI that I've seen in a game.
I have to bring up the part you were talking about, and I know it's a little slight tangent to what you were just saying, but remember we were talking about NSC and moving through spaces and stuff. So
Yeah.
imagine AI that's programmed to move like players, and like the way that you see people jumping around, and can you imagine? And the thing you brought up, and we all chuckled on, was that I'll let you tell it. The 20 AI that you were talking about, like moving and just jumping and going absolutely nuts. And could you tell that they're players or not?
Yeah, I think that definitely delves more into like what our expectation is from the AI. But yeah, I mean, like if it were a 1-to-1 from player movement, I don't think it would be quite as effective, because that would look ridiculous to have like 20 AI running around like players at full sprint speed and jumping over railings over like a 2-story drop just to get to like a drink of water quickly,
Yeah, but do you think that's a thing that they're going to have to do? Well, Algared, I'll ask you, because I know, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Algared here. Algared likes to walk everywhere. He likes that
Mhm.
realism factor, right? So, Algared, do you think that that's a thing that they're going to have to mimic slightly to get the real feel in Star Citizen, to make AI act a little bit weird, just
If I
like he suggested?
if I want AI to be indistinguishable or less distinguishable as AI, then yeah. Like I don't walk at the pace that AI walks. I tend to walk a little bit faster, so I do a fast walk.
Like a light jog.
Very
kind
rarely
of,
no, not the jog, but just below that. That's right, power walking. I might do a really slow walk if I'm just wanting to look and appreciate the decor.
Right.
Mhm.
But if I'm going somewhere, unless I'm really in a hurry, I'll do the power walk. But most of the AI, I'm walking faster than. And the other experience with AI at the moment is the fact that they will not walk around you. They'll just no.
And they kind of like push you and and
Yeah.
shove. And that's actually interesting, because that's where I want to go next. Because one of the one really good ones that came up when we were talking about this was in Half-Life 2, and the guard that tells you to pick up the can. And every time you walk up to them and they push you and stuff. And that's some of the interactions I'd like to see, is them AI coming back to you and actually interacting with you, not just
Yeah.
a bartender that pours a drink and puts it on the thing, but imagine a bartender where a ball breaks out and he jumps the bar and he's like pulling you off people, and that could be really interesting. This backwards
Or
and forwards
the AI,
dynamic.
instead of just barging into you, you know, like their hand goes up and pushes you away, rather than just, I'm just going to keep going, you know, that type of thing would be more believable in terms of at least what a person would do. It may not be what a player would do. A player would probably just stand there and just keep walking into you to like the AI do at the moment. But it'd be nice to see the AI do those types of literally push.
Yeah. So we'll move on a little bit now to how we hope the AI behaves in Star Citizen. And I think we'll kind of start out with what they kind of have planned here. And for me, we obviously have all seen these big talks by Tony Zerovic about Quanta and the in-game simulation. And to kind of streamline this a little bit, I believe that is totally pull-offable. I don't think there's anything wrong with the simulation. I actually think that'll be really good. I think it'll be really deep. I think the AI we're really kind of focusing on today is the ones that we interact with. So for me, it's more like something like an actual AI player. So say, for example, us three are on a ship together, and the AI that is with us is an engineer. Now, so when I play as an engineer, if there's a mini game, and obviously there might be multiple mini games, and the way I kind of pitched this to Morph when we were talking initially before you turned up was, I said, say there's they have a rating system of difficulty of these tasks between, say, 1 and 10. Now, in most games, and I assume in this game it will probably be the same, is it say that a level 10 rating might take 10 minutes and a level 1 might take 1 minute. And where you and I might actually have to play that mini game, I suspect the AI will just sit there and run out the timer. Is that the type of thing that you two are expecting, or are you expecting something more elaborate? And Algared, I'll start with you.
I'd like to see the AI, if the mini game we're doing has us moving levers or doing things, I'd hope the AI would be doing the same thing rather than just standing at the terminal.
Is that just an animation, or is it actually physically playing the game, so to speak? Because I kind of see that if you can't actually see them playing the game,
if you can't see them playing the game, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they can cheat.
If I could go up and watch you play the game and see what you're doing, then I'd expect I should be able to see the AI doing it.
Right. Your thoughts in that then? So you think it's fine for them to cheat in that regard with AI, but as long as you can kind of at least see they're doing something, or where do you draw the line there?
Yeah, I think that's fine. But I think that before we go too much into what we hope to see, I think it's first important to qualify or go into the what the aim of the AI is, what the objective is, because the title of the subject of the video is can AI be lifelike in Star Citizen, right? But what is lifelike? Because we've talked about two different types of AI. There's one that mimics the way that humans act in a video game,
right?
And then there's the other that acts the way you expect a human to behave if they were living in the universe that you're inhabiting. And if I were to choose between those two about which is the one that I'd like them to emulate, it wouldn't be the way that players behave in a video game. It'd be the way that humans behave in a universe.
Yes.
I don't want to see the AI bunny hopping everywhere.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, within reason, I would like to see the AI behave in a way that immerses me in the environment. Yeah, you know, you don't slow walk everywhere, but I think that if you want to make it believable, then maybe you add variation to them. You don't make them all do the same thing. Some of them jog, of them sprint, maybe most of them walk, because some of them are going to be in a rush to their next destination. So I guess really, before we go into it, I just want to state for me personally, I think that what I'd like to see is that they act in a way that's believable in the universe that I'm occupying, a way that makes me feel like I'm actually in that environment.
But that also ties in with one of the things they've said they want the AI to do in terms of have their time frame and have their life. So, it's the morning, he's late to work, so he's going to run. He's finished work, he's tired, he's going to dawdle. He's at the bar, he's going to be ordering drinks or fighting with his neighbour. Those types of things are elements you want to be able to see. It's the type of, it's the same type of thing you'd see with a human doing the jobs, and that would hopefully mean it's not just the same AI we see running everywhere, but like you go to Microtech at the moment, you see the same group doing the laps every time you go there, but you never see one of those guys in the office later doing his job and then walking down. You couldn't follow him and walk him down to the thing. He goes in the change room and comes out and starts jogging. We don't see that. It's just the same group. And if they get that aspect of them living their life and going through their daily routine, then it becomes more believable. This is a living, breathing world.
Right.
I think
that they... Sorry, go ahead, Execute.
I was just going to add to something you said previously, how you're talking about emulating interactions, and you also, looking back at what you said about Tarkov, I thought it'd be really interesting. What if they took, say, someone like Moist Noodle and they copy his flight behaviors, and they could actually emulate that onto, say, an enemy AI fighter pilot, and he would fight and almost give everyone their chance to go up against Moist Noodle, as an example.
Right.
There could be a character in a game that they emulate their AI based off Board Gamer, and you could go there and buy picos off him or whatever he's selling. They could have you in an 890 jump. You could be like I don't know. You could be an usher on the 890 jump, or whatever you choose. Have Algared as Algared could be your captain, your old school captain with the little hat and all that. So I think
you actually just want me in the kitchen, cooking the.
I didn't say the kitchen.
I said the fried Tavarin.
I said the captain.
That's what you want.
I didn't say any. Don't put words in my mouth. I said captain. I was very polite.
Yeah. I know
right,
you raised me up from, you demoted me from colonel. I know what you did there.
Oh, right. Okay, we're back to colonel. All right, back in the kitchen then. All right. Look, I actually think the emulation thing could be really succinct, and I think one of the things we haven't talked about that I want to add to this conversation is deep learning. Deep learning has really taken off. We've obviously seen what's happened with NVIDIA and stuff. If you've done any research on the subject, imagine they designed a level they can allow the deep learning to allow the computer to run all the simulations at once to find the best way to navigate that room, and then apply that to Star Citizen, and then the characters or the AI themselves know the best way to navigate that room. Now, to put this on an extreme example to get your brains working, give them the mentality and the physics and the way the Vandal move through the environment. We know they're going to be very jumpy and physical and can take large leaps, and also apply that to low gravity environments, etc., etc. Boom, put that on AI, and imagine the stuff they're going to come up with that we can't even think of. What do you guys think about that? Is that a way forward?
I mean, I think we're to me, how do I say this? I think it is, if we're talking about like the FPS AI movement in first person, or I guess in space as well, is to use that deep learning. I think it is an interesting way to create variation on those individual chance encounters that you have. But I think that that's the extent of its usefulness, and it is important. I'm not trying to underplay the importance of the deep learning.
Right.
I think it can really help inform that. But going back to a bit, what Algared said about the movement of the AI and what they're doing, their tasks. I think ultimately what makes a AI feel believable and lifelike is that that it has motive, it has purpose for what it's doing. And that just walks around in circles all day, you immediately notice as a human being that that's not a lifelike movement. It's the movement of a machine.
Yeah.
So for those individual interactions, I think the deep learning helps in the fact that it can create unexpected situations of behavior. But the overall motive of the AI is also really important on the macro scale to create a believable universe, because then that shifts the different types of AI that you interact with in stations. It creates a story behind the AI's purpose in that location, and intrigue and interest, and it makes the universe feel more alive, like there's something going on. There's there's politics to the station that you're in. There's a certain type of person or AI that it attracts. I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole with this.
Yeah.
The sum of it I just want to get across here is that for me, for the subject of AI, and what I hope to see is that the AI should have motive and purpose and feel that way.
And that's one of the things that I know CIG have tried to, they say this is one of the goals we want. We want our AI to have purpose. So they want, if you're in a dogfight with them and they're starting to lose, that they value their life. They're not just going to stay and die if it's a non-winnable fight. They're going to try and hightail it.
Yeah. I think a long time ago, Algared, didn't they talk about something like 17 different personalities, and then they talked about cross-pollinating them to get a lot different more. So you could have someone that, and they talked about if he'd been in many, many battles previously, he would have experience, and so it literally,
or he might be suffering fatigue and those types of things.
And the example,
but you also,
I was just going to say the example they gave though when he been in previous battles is if he went up a particular enemy he was particularly scared of, he might break and run sooner, and little things like that. And so it kind of was like all these drums or dials, and they could just turn them and create a different character and randomize the AI in a way.
And that also comes in when you've got your AI who's your engineer. Is he a beginner engineer? Is he just someone who's starting off, or is he a highly experienced one? And so that would impact the way in which he would spend doing those missions or those gameplay. But even when they've been looking at the AI, when they were doing the flight model of turret gameplay in AI, and the video I'm talking about, the ghastly one where they, hey, this is how AI turret ships fly, and you had the Gladius flying behind the Connie just ripping it apart.
So I've just moved the circle down. But even that
was the idea of trying to get the AI acting as a way to try and get better shots on its target.
We're moving into the exploring how this might be possible. So I've just moved the circle down. So we're moved into how this might be accomplished, and that's the things that they've talked about in the past is all those things that Algared and I just mentioned. Quanta is another really big one. And I think that's kind of been talked about a lot. But really, this episode is more about the ones we personally interact with. That whole quanta system is a simulation in the background. Sorry, Algared?
But they've also talked about if you've got your Kraken set up as a merchant and you've got prices that are competitive, the quanta will actually come to you. Now, does that mean we're going to see their ships arriving on at our ship, or coming to our Banu merchantman?
Yeah.
And does that mean they're going to be coming to the stalls? And if that's the case, we will see them. So it won't just be the mythical quanta in the background working. We'll actually see the AI coming to our shop and buying stuff.
It'll be more like the simulation will send them to you, and then you can see them. So so they're going to go from simulation into the real world. There'll be a time period where they pass from simulation to in our face, so to speak, but then they'll disappear back into the
then they'll fly away and disappear into the never again. But
so that's that. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think so. If we're moving on to the subject of exploring how this might be accomplished and talking about quanta, I think it helps to be giving examples of how it might help and how we envision it might help. If I may explore this a little bit further. So, going back to the first person experience, the feeling of a lived-in world feels like players and NPCs are intermingling in a lifelike way. I think the quanta could be really helpful in the way they've described it, because it would it would inform what types of NPCs would be in which locations. So, for example, if you're in a truck stop in Star Citizen, you would expect to see probably a lot of cargo runners, maybe a few bounty hunters, maybe a few UEE Navy pilots or members of the UEE Navy, but mostly you're going to see cargo guys, right? And so their behavior would be very, very different than those other types of AI. And I think that would make the station feel more like it has a place in the universe. Like it makes sense. You wouldn't expect to go there and see a giant gang of pirates or something. Maybe at that time, it would be mostly just regular Joes flying back and forth, right?
Could I tangent again? I just
Sure.
had say you have an AI on your ship with you, and he's from the other side of the universe, and he's like some kind of partially religious zealot or whatever, and you bring him to said station or cargo deck that you explained, and then there's some kind of weird interaction with the AI. It's like, oh, he's one of those really weird. You know what I mean? Like, you hear these conversations because you've rocked up with this weird character, and so like, oh, I haven't seen one of those in like 5 years or something, and they're that could be some really cool interaction where you. Because you go to an area,
he's one of them pilgrim types,
Yeah, when you bring two AI together, they have some really cool interactions that you haven't seen before. Sorry, but I thought that was just important to bring up. That they're the little things they could add.
Right, yeah. Now that's definitely a little bit harder to do. Yeah, because I think that the Quanta helps put the right AI where it needs to be. In a way that makes sense in the universe. Yep. Because the quanta simulation, as Tony Z elaborated on very well, is basically simulating the universe as a whole, where people are moving and why, and how it affects the economy, and how the economy affects people. That back and forth is fascinating.
And going with the supply and demand, and if there's a demand here, then the traders will go there, and then the pirates might go there because of that, and then the UEE will go there, and so that will also inform what types of people we're seeing in each, or what types of characters we're seeing in each location as well. So
who we fly by in space, and who we encounter in stations when we go to the bar.
Yeah,
right.
So it could mean the local station is got more UEE there because, or more cops there, or more bounty hunters because of more piracy in the area. So.
Yeah, I've just thought of a kind of better example. You know how you've got the Nick system, and they don't like the UEE people. You could turn up with a UEE pilot as your AI, and they're very standoffish with him because he's wearing like UEE uniforms or something. There's another example. So I think they definitely are going to have interaction between AIs because of just so much lore that's built up. And Algared, this is something you'd probably be better on to speak on than me, but you would attest in simple terms that there are definitely some interactions that could be done between AI characters, just because they have bad blood in the past, etc.
Yeah, well, I'd expect, if you got an old school UEE pilot and there's Tavaran there, he might be, not like the Tavaran, or Tavaran are going to be certainly negative to most people. I can remember reading one of the early lore stories. I can't remember the prison story, and there was a whole wing that was just the Tavaran had basically taken it over, and it was the Tavaran enclave in this prison, and and they didn't like people. So I could imagine that type of aspect being there as well.
I think you've touched on a really important topic, Algared, and I think that this is one of the components that makes AI believable in Lifelike and in Star Citizen. It's that there are histories in a lived universe. There's a backstory to it. One of the very important things about good science fiction and good movies about science fiction, or any good movie, is the world creation. The sense that there's a story behind things, and the history itself can help inform the interactions between people. So the Tavaran example that you've cited would inform the way AI might behave towards UEE. If they had encountered the Tavaran Wars, or they're familiar with, or they know somebody who is of Tavaran descent.
Another classic example I just thought of is residents from Terra. coming up against residents of Sol.
Social class,
Mm.
right?
Well, like, even just that whole, Terra is the center of the universe. No, Sol is the center of the universe. You've got these two aspects there.
I was even thinking
Right.
slightly differently. What if there was a Taveran child and the Taveran child had never seen a human, so she runs up and is kind of eager, and then the father kind of steps in and kind of pulls them back and says, no, we can't talk to those people, they're bad. So you're almost having a love and hate AI, so like a curiosity with the younger kid, and then a withdrawing panic of the adult. Like, they can you see that? Like, there's a certain layer, and again, those dials. If they get all these little AI components like hate and envy and all that stuff, and they can dial in different things and chop and change, the depth of this AI could be really, really strong.
Yeah, I like that. I think that the important thing to take away here is that the AI behavior should inform us, not just be informed by, but inform us on the background and the story of the universe. It's what's going to sell the livelihood of it. So the example that you cited tells a backstory that I, as a visitor to the Star Citizen universe, may not know, because I haven't read all the right? But I could start gleaning bits of information here and there by some well-crafted interactions. So what you just spoke of is another facet of making AI believable.
And instead of the AI saying to the kid, hey, in classic UEE, hey, don't go there, they're bad, but he says it in Taveran, and so you've suddenly got this, what the hell?
There you go.
And so you've got this,
I like that.
this another layer coming in. To just make it believable. You're right, but in terms of if you make it believable and it ties in and gives it and informs us, it actually makes us want to find out more about the world. So there's another layer of
curiosity,
of what we want AI to do, which I hadn't even really been thinking of it. I was thinking more other aspects. But
and you can actually, I was going to say just real quick, you can see how the AI, not the AI team, but the lore team is really going to get into the AI team. I can see this crossover. Sorry, Morph, you want to say?
I think we've now touched on the point that the AI is integral. It is the interface between us and the universe.
Agreed.
The objects that we inhabit only go so far to tell a story. The occupants of these spaces are ultimately the storytellers. And if Star Citizen is going to be successful, not just in Squadron 42, but in the PU, then the AI themselves and the way they behave, the way they interact, in order for them to be lifelike, must have stories to them that tie into lore, political situations, socioeconomic situations. I think that we really touched on something really fascinating.
I agree.
Totally opposite of what I think we were thinking would be going down.
Yeah, definitely.
We're showing Morph how it's dynamic. That's just how it works here. Because the other thing I'm thinking of it is, like, you look at, say, something like Squadron 42, that's going to be highly scripted. How dynamic is it going to be believable? Like, again, and if you can, I don't know what the core systems are. You'd have to sit it down and break it up. But, like, let's say there's 30 pieces to the AI. And turning those dials and picking the right one. So this guy's really grumpy. This guy is he really rich or is he homeless? All that type of thing. And how old is he? Is he old? What, is he a woman or a man? Or is he somewhere in the middle? Like, is he an alien?
And certainly in the Vertical Slice or the Morrow Tour, you saw that type of idea of where they want to go, where they've got the characters just talking about, how's it going? And you've got that stuff. Yeah, we got that stuff. Oh, so and so's on PK again. Oh, why? What'd he do? And you've got that type of banter between the crew as well as other aspects. So
it's almost like what they've done with the modular room system. It's modular AI. I've just clicked onto what it is, but that's how they're going to have to do it, and I think that's the only way it's going to work. But it's a big job, and it really is. And I guess we're almost wrapping up here, so to speak, but it's leading on to it's an AI that we've never seen before. I can't think of anything else like it. Can you, boys?
I think, yeah. I mean, it's an AI that I think this is next level AI. Is it's telling the story of the universe. But I think we still need to touch on some more specific mechanics of the way AI work before we move on to the conclusion and high hopes of what we what we want to see. Because you've touched on a couple times without really like articulating what that
Nailing
was, and I want to point out
Go for
it's the crafting the unique. They have to be crafted. They can't be done by like the AI's movement because that's still too mechanical. Is crafting those unique situations that can happen by chance. So, for example, the Tavaran children interacting with an adult would be an example of a unique interaction that was crafted by the CIG developers to tell a story. And there doesn't need to be many of these. And this is my position on it, but it should be there. That there should be some unique interactions that happen. Only really need one or two, maybe three, in a user's visit to a particular place for it to become a believable and lifelike place. So, like the child's interaction. The pick up the can we didn't actually cover, but in Half-Life 2, there's this very well-known interaction that begins at the beginning of the game where one of the cops knocks over a can and says, pick up the can. That's not technically AI, that's a programmed interaction that makes the world believable, right? That's the sort of thing we need in Star Citizen.
That's a single player game, and that's a scripted event. That's what I'm talking about. So if you want to make that dynamic, the closest I can actually think to it is ones that are, say, Knights of the Old Republic, and you get different interactions depending on who your not accomplices, but you know that your the people that accompany you is. So if you come in and you could make it based on your own race, or you could base it on who you're with, also the reputation you have. So if you're known as a criminal, you might have more hard time with guards than, say, if you come in and you're wearing a UE uniform. So that's how I think that they would do it. And so maybe there are, as you've suggested, 3 or 4 trigger points or places that you can walk through in a zone. So maybe different entrances or a bar or some common area that when you go there, it goes, right, you are this character. What can I throw at you today? And and so you're a criminal, so they chuck a bounty hunt at you, as an example.
Now, and the other thing, like with the Tavaran child thing, I don't want to see that every time I go to that planet and go to that location, the same thing.
Yeah.
You almost want it to be a learned response that after this child's had X, Y, and Z, it basically runs away and hides or does
what if
something.
Algared, just to really tuck a twist in there, you come back 4 or 5 years later and she's an adult,
and she throws a bottle at you.
or she remembers you and you save her again, or something, or like the point is, wouldn't it be cool if it's progressive? So
now it's talking about high hopes.
There's our high hopes.
Now we're in high hopes.
Yeah. But that would be cool if they data log our entries and then an expansion pack comes out or something, and 3 or 4 years later they force you to go back to a planet that you've been to previously, and it kicks up the story another notch, and then another expansion pack and it kicks up. So you could essentially, taking this child example, you could have it go from a young girl right through to a woman, and you turn out being friends with her down one tree, and you go give her away at a marriage. The other one, she turns out to be an assassin and wants to kill you. Like, you can see how
you didn't help the community when they needed it, so now she hates you for
exactly.
passion,
So you can see, and that's just one example of where they could take the. And now we're going from AI into quests, and again, you can't starting as you kind of hit on, Morph. The AI is going to be the thing that carries these stories. They're going to take in the lore and the writing and the quests, and it's going to tie those both together in a presentation format. Yeah, it's.
And you don't want just the blur being spilled at you as, just a voiceover type thing telling you the story. You actually want to be able to discover it. And I think from when I've heard the lore team in the past talk, or Chris talk, or any of them talking about what they want the game to be, they want things to be discoverable. They don't want to just put it out there. They want us to find out about how people think. One thing a lot of people forget about the lore is the lore we have is from the UE perspective. We don't know the Banu perspective of the lore. We don't know the Tavaran perspective of the lore. We don't know, the Tavaran's view. We got an idea, but it's from the human aspect, the human point of view, and that's one thing that if you want to find the other side, we've got to go and hunt it down and find that out, and that's a unique aspect to consider as well.
It's the more I think about it, the more integral I think it is, and
Oh,
the
I think
more,
that's the one thing I've taken out of this is something I
yeah,
never really even thought about is how important the AI is to the game.
yeah, it's going to make or break it, because now I look back at other games, like so look at World of Warcraft. You're just sitting there, you go up to the quest giver, and he's just standing there as an NPC, and you read what he says, and then you walk off.
Mhm.
Then you've got probably the best MMO I've played so far is Knights of the Old Republic, and everything is cinematic, and they really just change the set dressing and use different stock animations, but that really takes it up a notch because
Mm.
it's a little cinematic every time. Now,
Mhm.
what if it's that, but it's
On
dynamic?
steroids.
Yeah, so you have those generic animations every time you turn up, but every time you come into a landing zone, it doesn't have to be every time, but like there's just a different. Even if you get one interaction every time, 10 times you come to a planet, that is going to be bigger than any other game you've ever seen, and that
Mm.
the little girl interaction, and then 2 years later, imagine if you played 2 years later and you could go back and go, wow, I remember that from. Well, maybe 2 years is too long, but 6 months ago, and then the kids got a little older and stuff like that. I just think that could be the potential there is quite insane. But
It'd be a nightmare for the developers, I think,
no,
to
because if it's
map
done,
the age of this character growing and getting
not
Mm.
necessarily,
and changing.
because they've got enough story people on that, and if you're designing quests, you track all the quests. They're already doing that already, so it's just tracking the characters within the quest. That's not that much extra work. And again, the lore team would be writing the quests, so they're putting the characters in there already. It's just remembering that, and the hard part is going back to remember what they did and carrying it forward. That's the hard part, because you have to retrace what you've done and continue. And if you back yourself into a corner, that may kill that quest chain, but that's fine. You make a new quest chain and a new character, and you go on. So for example, Tessa Bannister is really popular. So if Tessa is popular, hers could just go on and on and on and on. But if they make something and they explore it and they find it doesn't work, or maybe they explore a topic that's a little bit too, maybe they do genocide or slavery with the Banu. And so not many people are going to want to do that. So they close those off fairly quickly. You can see how open-ended and creative it can be.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we'll start right up. This has
Well,
actually gone longer than I
well,
thought it was going to go.
it
But
is. I
yeah.
do have a question because it's totally opposite to where we've gone.
Mm-hmm.
But will we be able? But the idea of a lot of people have seen the AI being indistinguishable from players. Now we've actually taken it the other way and said, well, actually, we want them to be more realistic because they tell us the law. But how indistinguishable do you think they'll be? Do you think we'll be able to get to that point where we're not sure?
I think Chris said it at one point where he said, if you wanted to blend into the AI that you could.
Mm.
But I'm not sure if he ever said that the AI should be indistinguishable, right? I don't think he ever said that directly. But he said he wanted it to be where you could blend, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between an AI and a player if that player didn't, wanted to behave like someone walking around in that world.
I
Am I
think
incorrect in that?
no, you've pretty much nailed it on. But I think he's also said a lot of this stuff over the last 10 years, and I think
Mm.
with deep learning and that, it's changed a lot. They've learned how they are going to do it.
Mhm.
And I think the other thing I've taken away from today is it is going to take several things working together to get that. I think using deep learning to make them move more like us. I think how they interact with each other and how they interact with us as well is a big thing. And I would rather something that is engaging than believable. So if they're just if we want them to be exactly like us, I think that we're going to lose a bit of that interactivity. And I don't know about you two, but I'm happy to give up the realism factor for the interactive factor. I would rather interact with them and see them interacting with each other. I find that more, especially from a lore or story perspective, like the example with the Tavaran child, that would intrigue me, and I would go down a rabbit hole. And I think most people would be like that. Your thoughts on that, Algred and Morph? Like, would you rather go down a rabbit hole and explore the story, or would you rather just they're constantly walking around and you feel like you're in the world rather than like being involved in the people, you're involved in the world. What's your preference, people or place? I guess is what I'm asking you.
Well, I want to be immersed in the world. So,
Mm.
and I
But
think
what
that's a
is
key
the
goal
world?
Chris wants as well.
But what is the world? Is the world the place, or is it the people, or is it a combination of both? And I think it's both, is what I'm trying to say.
I think it is both. I think practically speaking, the behavior driven by quanta is a more achievable goal and something that I think we
Agreed.
can expect to see.
Mm.
And then the backstory starts to lean more into the future of AI and being in Star Citizen as being how they're going to make a next gen, the way they behave with one another in the interactions. But then I think that like those super unique interactions that are more quest-like also need to be interjected here and there. And I don't think every single AI that you interact should be able to have that ability to have a quest line to them. I think that's completely impractical. And I think we all agree that that's a little that's even beyond high hopes. That's like a supercomputer a level of territory
That's after we're dead.
of universe simulation, right? But I do hope that that interaction, that kind of interaction, would happen. I think we need to have it, and I hope, and I hope that this is not a high hope, that the AI can have that backstory we talked about, but also fly. That there be a good amount of them flying outside together, not in necessarily player-like ways, but believable ways where you've got many where you can blend in, and then in stations that there's enough doing interesting things that it's believable, that you hear conversations, you have hints of socioeconomic status and maybe tensions, political tensions or something with the universe happening that tells that backstory. Like that's what I hope for Star Citizen, with a little bit of those unique stories to spice it up here and there. Really.
Your thoughts, Algared, as we wind
No,
down?
I think that's like that's what I'd like.
Yeah.
But I know you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I want, the idea of the AI not being able to tell whether I'm fighting an AI or not." And a lot of people say, "Well, you'll never get AI doing that." But in a sense, the way we've taken our discussion has been totally away from that whole argument, hasn't it? It's been looking at why the AI is important and how the AI really ties in and makes and draws us into the world, rather than not being indistinguishable from the player. And I think that in a sense is the difference. And I have a feeling the way we've been talking is probably more the way Chris's would lean than.
Well, nature of the Inforunners, man. We find things dynamically as we as we record them, so that's just how things go. But a little thing that I think would be attainable is not knowing if you're fighting a fighter pilot when you're actually fighting them in the machine. I'd expect that to be indistinguishable. That I think is very possible.
I think what could make them more believable is the quanta, really. It's the when and where and how, because, for example, ultimately the accuracy and ability for an AI to kill you, I don't think that's a hard to achieve goal. There are plenty of games that make AI stupidly good at killing things. In fact, they get so good that they're impossible to fight as a player. They could tune it up to the max where the player would never stand a chance against an AI in Star Citizen. I have absolute confidence that they could do that, because every other game is capable of doing that. The trick is toning it down. The trick is making variation and believability, that there's bad pilots and good pilots. But I think what will make it the next level of believable in Lifelike is the behavior of the before and after of the fight. So how did you interact with them, and where did you interact, and how do they interact once they believe they're going to be defeated? Will they fly away to meet with their friends, the other group of pirates, to draw you into a trap? Because they're in that area defined by quanta, so it knows to jump there to find with his friends and have more people together to fight you. Like, that creates a more believable interaction that's almost like a player would jump back to his friends, for example.
Did they ambush you? Did they, seek you out? Did they, all those little things? Yeah, and that's what I mean. That I think will make it more believable. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think we need to wind this down. We're getting up to 50 minutes now. We've
That's
gone
been longer
right
than we
through it,
expected.
so it's good. Yeah, it's been very long, but it's been very educational. I hope you guys both got something out of it, because I did as well. Is there anything else you want to add before we kind of sign off, or we just leave it there, short and sweet? All right, we're gonna leave it there. If you like this video, subscribe. Consider backing us on Patreon. Hope you like this type of content. Morph, can you please let people know again where they can find you? Just one more time.
Find me at YouTube at Morphologis, and on Twitch at Morphologis as well.
Cool.
And don't forget, leave your comments in below. We do read every comment. We don't always answer every comment, but we do read them. Just remember, be respectful, and yeah.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts on the AI, and did you guys learn from something from this episode? Because I think we brainstormed for a couple of hours before we did this episode, and it literally went different place. So yeah, it was quite interesting.
Totally different to what we've thought it'd be. But
yeah, exactly. But that's how it works here. All right, thank you for joining us, Morph. Thank you, Algared, and I've been Execute, and we'll see you in the next one.
take care, God bless, and be well.